Okay, let's talk about something that's, well, it's surprisingly common, but maybe not exactly, coffee break conversation.
Hmm.
Have you ever had that feeling like you're doing everything right with hygiene, showering daily, clean clothes, all of it, but there's still this faint odor, maybe a little urine-like?
Oh, absolutely. It just sort of lingers.
Exactly. And it feels impossible to pin down. You start thinking, is this just how things are now, especially as we get older?
It is incredibly common. And yes, that feeling of, is this just me,
Mm-hmm.
can be really frustrating.
Mm.
Honestly, it can feel a bit isolating too, because, well, people often feel too embarrassed to even ask about it.
Right. Like, who do you bring that up with?
Precisely. But the key thing is you are definitely not alone if you're experiencing this.
That's such a relief to hear, actually. And look, we've been handed this fantastic bundle of information, really good stuff that gets right into why this might be happening. It looks at some, frankly, surprising reasons, all backed by doctor recommendations, and specifically for women over 60. It really does highlight things you might never, ever connect to this kind of issue.
Think of it like we're cracking a code here. We're going to unpack all this information, pull out the absolute essentials, the stuff that actually works.
Find those simple, practical solutions.
Exactly. The small changes that can make a huge difference in feeling fresh, comfortable, and, well, confident again. Day in, day out.
Yeah, our mission here is really to cut through that confusion, maybe that little bit of embarrassment or self-consciousness. We're digging into, I think it's 7 key areas.
7 key areas, yes, where everyday habits, things you probably do without a second thought, might actually be working against you.
Even things that seem totally harmless or maybe even helpful, it's a bit counterintuitive sometimes.
It really is. These are small things, easy to overlook. But this information really shows how they can add up and, well, create a noticeable problem.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first area this material points to, it's something many women deal with quietly. Those tiny, unexpected leaks.
Right. Not talking about major accidents necessarily.
No, just that little bit, maybe when you laugh really hard or cough suddenly or even just stand up sometime.
Exactly. And the crucial point here, the real insight, is that even a tiny amount of urine from those moments,
Hmm.
it's not harmless. It can soak into your underwear, maybe even your outer clothes.
And if that moisture isn't dealt with straight away,
Then you've got the perfect little incubator, haven't you? Warm, damp.
and bacteria just love that.
They thrive, which of course leads to odor. There was a story in the material, quite striking actually, about someone who was just baffled by this persistent smell.
Oh, yeah.
They were cleaning the house top to bottom, trying different detergents, thinking of the environmental,
Doing everything right.
everything, only to finally realize the smell was actually embedded in her underwear. Underwear that maybe hadn't been washed immediately after a tiny leak happened.
Wow. That really highlights a couple things, doesn't it? First, how sneaky this can be. You're looking everywhere else.
And second, something we don't talk about much.
Hmm.
As we age, our own sense of smell can sometimes fade a bit.
So you might not even detect it yourself.
Exactly. But maybe others do.
Hmm.
The anecdote mentioned it was actually her daughter-in-law who noticed it, which, that's a tough conversation, but maybe an important wake-up call.
Oof, yeah. It definitely makes you think twice about just tossing undies in the hamper for later if there's been even a tiny incident.
But the good news, as the material really stresses, is that the fix isn't some huge ordeal.
No.
No. It recommends specific things designed exactly for these light leaks, like moisture-wicking underwear or those really thin, discreet incontinence liners.
Yeah, they're not like the bulky things people might imagine.
Not at all. They're engineered now to absorb moisture super quickly and pull it right away from your skin.
Hmm.
That stops that whole bacterial growth process before it even starts.
So it's about recognizing maybe your body's needs have shifted a bit and just using the right tools proactively.
Proactive management, that's the key phrase. It's not about feeling shame. It's just smart solutions for how your body's working right now.
I like that. Smart solutions. Okay, so moving on from leaks. The next big point in this information tackles something most of us probably have gotten wrong for ages, the kind of soap we use.
Oh, this is a big one. We're sort of conditioned, aren't we? To think stronger scents, more foam means cleaner.
Totally. Give me all the floral fragrance.
Right. But the material explains that as our skin ages, especially in, well, intimate areas, it naturally gets thinner, it gets drier, more sensitive.
Particularly after menopause, right, when estrogen drops.
Exactly. So those heavily perfumed body washes, the ones maybe we loved in our 20s or 30s,
Hmm.
they can actually be really harsh now.
How so?
They strip away the skin's natural protective oils. And crucially, they disrupt the delicate pH balance down there.
Ah, okay. And that disruption.
That actually creates an environment where the odor-causing bacteria are more likely to grow.
No way. So trying to smell super clean with strong stuff can actually make the odor problem worse.
It's completely counterintuitive, isn't it? There's another story about someone scrubbing away with a really fragrant wash, feeling squeaky clean,
Mm-hmm.
only to notice a sort of musty smell by lunchtime.
Mm.
It's this really frustrating cycle. You feel like you're failing, but actually your cleanser is working against you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what's the fix then? What did the material suggest?
It's surprisingly simple, almost shockingly so. Switch to a very mild, unscented soap.
Unscented.
Or get
Yeah.
this, even just plain warm water for sensitive areas.
Great water. Really? That sounds almost too basic.
Sometimes the simplest things are the best.
Mhm.
Warm water is actually really effective at removing sweat and daily buildup without stripping away your natural defenses.
So you let your skin sort of rebalance itself.
Exactly. Allowing your skin's natural pH to recover can be totally transformative.
Hmm.
Often, it eliminates the need for harsh soaps or trying to mask odors later with perfumes or sprays. Less really is more here.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge takeaway. It's not about adding scent, it's about removing the irritants causing the actual problem.
All right, building on those liners we mentioned earlier. Point number 3 is about not changing them often enough.
Yeah, this ties right back into that moisture issue we were just talking about. Whether you're using liners or maybe light pads for leaks or even just for, feeling fresh during the day, they're designed to absorb moisture. That's their job.
So you might put one on in the morning and maybe later in the day think, oh, it still feels pretty dry. It's not full or anything. I'm good.
Exactly, that thought process.
Yeah.
But that's where the trouble can start brewing. That trapped moisture, even if it feels dry to the touch, combined with your natural body heat.
Creates that warm, moist environment again.
Bingo. Perfect for bacteria. They start multiplying, maybe slowly at first, but steadily throughout the day. And the material described this leading to, like, a faint but definite sour smell by evening. Something that makes you feel really self-conscious.
Yes, you start wondering, can people smell this?
Yeah.
And the key insight here is that hygiene isn't just about what you can visually see or feel, like wetness. Bacteria are microscopic.
Mhm.
They absolutely thrive in those warm, slightly damp conditions, even if the liner surface feels okay to you.
So the advice is pretty clear then.
Very clear. Change liners and pads every few hours. Regularly.
Not just when they feel soaked, but proactively.
Proactively, to stop that bacterial growth cycle before it really gets established. A really practical tip from the material is just to carry a few extras with you
Yeah.
and make it a habit. Maybe every time you use the restroom, just quickly swap it out for a fresh one. It's a tiny habit change, really.
But with a big impact on staying comfortable and preventing that odor from building up.
Absolutely. It's about putting your skin health and odor prevention ahead of maybe saving a liner for a bit longer. Makes total sense when you think about it that way.
Mm.
It really does. Okay, point number 4. This one takes us right into our underwear drawer. Synthetic fabrics.
Ah, yes. Those comfy, stretchy panties. Maybe polyester, nylon. They often feel really soft and smooth.
They do, but the material highlights a major downside. They don't breathe.
Exactly. They essentially trap heat and moisture right up against your skin.
And we know what that means by now.
Perfect breeding ground for those odor-causing bacteria we keep talking about.
And I guess this becomes even more of an issue when you combine it with other factors we've discussed, like maybe those light leaks or just the natural changes in moisture and skin sensitivity with age.
Precisely. It all compounds. The material shared another story, someone feeling kind of constantly damp and just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Noticing a faint odor even though they showered regularly, maybe even used body spray, they just couldn't figure it out.
Frustrating. So what was the simple, maybe almost old-fashioned sounding solution the doctor gave?
Switch to cotton.
Just cotton.
Just cotton. Always cotton for underwear.
It sounds so basic, maybe even a bit boring. It might sound basic, but there's a reason it's recommended. Cotton is a natural fiber. It breathes.
Ah, so it lets air circulate.
Yes, and it absorbs moisture away from your skin rather than trapping it. This keeps the whole area significantly drier and much less welcoming for bacteria.
And the difference, according to the material.
Immediate and dramatic. The person in the story felt so much more comfortable, and the odor issue cleared up remarkably quickly just from that one switch.
And the material was quick to point out you don't have to wear, huge granny panties anymore.
Oh, definitely not. There are loads of attractive, comfortable, modern styles made from cotton these days.
It really drives home how fundamental that choice is, doesn't it? What's right next to your skin makes such a difference. Comfort without odor is always in style, I guess.
It really is a foundational change you can make.
Okay, switching gears quite a bit now. Point number 5 talks about something vital for overall health, but it also impacts hygiene in a way I hadn't really considered. Not drinking enough water.
Yes, this one's fascinating. The material points out a really common, but actually quite misguided strategy people sometimes adopt.
Which is?
Drinking less water, especially if they're worried about leaks or needing the bathroom frequently. They think, logically perhaps, if I drink less, I'll pee less.
Yeah, that makes surface level sense. Less in, less out.
But the material explains exactly how this backfires big time,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to odor.
Yeah.
It concentrates your urine. When you're dehydrated, your urine isn't nearly clear and relatively mild smelling. It becomes darker yellow, much more concentrated, stronger smelling, basically more pungent.
Ah. So then if you do have one of those little leaks we talked about earlier.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That tiny amount of leakage isn't just a bit of moisture. It's a bit of highly concentrated, strong-smelling urine.
Which has a far more intense odor that's much harder to ignore or manage.
Exactly. You're not just leaking a little fluid, you're leaking a little bit of something quite potent because your body hasn't had enough water to properly dilute the waste products before it gets eliminated.
Wow. There was a story about this too, right? Someone thinking a persistent, strong smell was
Us
just
aging. That's what they thought.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just aging. It was the concentrated urine caused by dehydration, amplifying the odor from very small leaks.
That's incredibly powerful. And the change when they simply started drinking more water.
It was remarkable, according to the material. Their urine became lighter, the odor faded significantly, and bonus, they just felt better overall. More energy, less sluggish.
So drinking enough water helps your kidneys work efficiently, keeps everything flushed out.
It essentially dilutes waste products and helps flush out impurities that contribute to odor. Think of it like keeping your body's internal plumbing well rinsed.
So the very thing you might do to avoid leaks drinking less actually makes any potential odor from a leak much, much worse.
Precisely. The material suggests focusing on managing the frequency issue differently, maybe planning bathroom breaks, doing pelvic floor exercises, rather than skimping on essential hydration.
Right. Water is crucial for so many things.
It really is. Prioritizing good hydration supports your whole body, and it turns out it's a quiet hero in managing potential odors, too.
Okay, point number 6. This one delves into another lifestyle thing. Sitting for long stretches without kind of refreshing yourself.
Yeah.
This feels very relevant, especially for people who might be retired or just spending more time at home these days.
Yes, absolutely. The material talks about that habit of settling in for hours, maybe reading, watching TV, working on a craft or puzzle. Lovely and relaxing, of course.
Yeah.
But remaining sedentary for long periods, especially if you're wearing cozy, maybe less breathable clothing, creates a bit of an issue down there.
You create like a warm, humid microclimate.
That's a perfect description. Minimal airflow, sweat, natural skin oils, maybe any tiny bit of moisture. It all just sits there trapped.
And over several hours.
That trapped warmth and moisture becomes, yet again, that ideal breeding ground for bacteria. And inevitably, that can lead to unwanted odors developing.
Oh, dear. There was a story about this too, wasn't there? A slightly awkward one.
Yes, very relatable, if a little cringe-inducing.
Yeah.
A grandchild apparently just innocently said something like, "Grandma, you smell a bit like something wet."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that develops so subtly you don't notice, and then mortifying.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that being comfortable shouldn't mean neglecting these basic hygiene needs, which really can change with age and lifestyle shifts.
So what's the recommendation here? It's not like you have to stop relaxing.
No, not at all. The solutions are thankfully quite straightforward. First, just break up those long sitting sessions.
Get up and move a bit.
Even just standing up, stretching, walking around the room for a minute or two every hour or so,
Yeah.
it makes a difference for airflow and circulation.
Okay. And the second thing,
Build in a quick midday hygiene refresh.
like a little reset.
Exactly. A simple wash of the intimate area, just warm water and a clean washcloth, is often enough. It takes seconds, but it removes that accumulated sweat and moisture. And also key, changing into fresh underwear daily. Even if you haven't been out or feel like you did anything,
Makes sense. Those little things add up.
they really do. It's about being proactive and recognizing that our bodies change. What worked fine when we were younger and maybe more active might not be quite enough when our days involve more sitting. It's just about maintaining that dignity and comfort through mindful habits.
Stillness and warmth need a bit more conscious attention.
Got it. Okay, and finally, The seventh point. This brings us to something really fundamental, our laundry routine. Specifically for underwear and maybe those comfy clothes we wear around the house.
Right. This goes beyond just visible dirt or stains.
Hmm.
The material points out how things like underwear, lounge pants, maybe even nightgowns might look perfectly clean after you've worn them for just a few hours at home.
Yeah, you think, oh, I barely wore these.
But they've absorbed sweat, skin oils, possibly tiny amounts of moisture we've been talking about. It gets into the fabric.
Is this that moment where maybe you put on seemingly clean pajama bottoms or lounge pants, and by mid-morning you're kind of sniffing the air thinking, is that me? Or is it the clothes? Yes. And as the material clarifies, it's often actually both. Bacteria from your skin plus any moisture gets embedded in the fabric fibers. This is especially true for synthetics, which tend to trap odors more.
And just running them through a standard wash cycle, maybe on cold to save energy, that might not be enough.
Often it's not, especially cold washes. They might not fully kill off all the bacteria or completely eliminate those lingering odors that build up over time. So even items fresh from the dryer can sometimes still carry a subtle underlying scent that contributes to the overall problem.
Okay, so what's the more deliberate approach is suggested?
For these specific items, underwear, pajamas, loungewear, washing them separately in hot water is really important. The heat helps kill bacteria effectively.
Hot water.
Adding about a cup of white vinegar to the wash cycle is also a great tip from the material. Vinegar is fantastic at neutralizing odors.
Oh, interesting. Like a natural odor eliminator.
Exactly. And then making absolutely certain everything is bone dry before you put it away. Any dampness is just an invitation for mustiness and bacteria to start growing again.
Right. Thorough drying. And the absolute number one rule the material emphasized.
Never rewear these items without washing them first, no matter how clean they seem or how briefly you wore them. One wear, then wash.
It might feel like a bit more laundry hassle, maybe.
It might, but the payoff feeling genuinely clean, eliminating that nagging background odor, is huge. It's another one of those areas where seemingly small but consistent habits build up to make a really significant positive difference in your personal comfort and confidence.
That sense of feeling fresh and comfortable in your own skin, it really does often come down to nailing these foundational everyday practices, doesn't it?
It really does. And these are accessible solutions, things people can actually do for challenges that often go unspoken.
So we've taken quite a deep dive here into this, well, this wealth of information. We've pulled out these 7 kind of surprising but very practical ways our daily habits can affect personal hygiene and confidence, especially as our bodies change over time.
From managing moisture properly, the right tools, changing habits.
To choosing gentle products, understanding why hydration is so key, being mindful of how much we sit still.
And even refining our laundry routine. It really is all about recognizing the specific needs of our bodies at this stage of life.
Yeah. And the core message that really comes through all of this information is definitely one of empowerment, I think.
Absolutely. These aren't issues you just have to put up with as inevitable. They're often simple, solvable problems once you understand what's actually causing them.
Gaining this knowledge really is about taking back a sense of control, isn't it? Feeling comfortable, feeling confident in your own skin again.
It's about honoring the body you have right now and making those small adjustments that acknowledge its current needs.
It makes you think, doesn't it, how easily we can overlook these really fundamental needs. Maybe it's just habit or trying to be convenient, or maybe even just a sense of resignation, thinking these discomforts are just, part of getting older. So here's a final thought for you to consider. What seemingly small habit in your own life, if you looked at it again through this lens, through the knowledge we've talked about today, what small change could unlock a whole new level of comfort and confidence for you? Something to reflect on.
Definitely food for thought. It's all about that mindful self-care.
Indeed. Stay healthy, everyone, and thanks for joining our deep